The consistent circle present this audiobook titled Lean Productivity, the Power of Self-Development. Narrator, Divine Echo. Introduction, The Factory of One. Imagine for a moment that you are a factory. This factory doesn't produce cars or gadgets. It produces something far more complex and valuable. Your life's work, your thoughts, your relationships, and your very future. Every day, this factory receives raw materials in the form of time, opportunities, and energy. Your task is to transform these materials into a finished product that you can be proud of. A life of meaning, accomplishment, and continuous growth. For decades, the business world has been obsessed with a concept called lean. Born on the factory floors of Toyota, lean manufacturing revolutionized industry by systematically identifying and eliminating waste, anything that does not add value to the customer. But what if we told you that these same principles, honed in the crucible of industrial competition, hold the key to unlocking your own potential? What if the most important factory to optimize is not the one you work in, but the one you are? This book, Lean Productivity, is about making that mental shift. It is about applying the profound wisdom of lean to the intimate journey of self-development. This is not just about getting more things done on your to-do list. It is about becoming a more effective, focused, and fulfilled human being. It is about transforming your internal operations so you can produce your best work, contribute your greatest value, and live a life with less friction and more flow. As we embark on this journey together, we will treat your life as a system to be understood and improved. We will learn to see the waste, the procrastination, the clutter, the unnecessary meetings, the nagging doubts that clogs your daily workflow and dims your spirit. We will learn to design flow, to make your important work happen effortlessly. And we will embrace Kaizen, the powerful philosophy of continuous, incremental improvement, ensuring that you are never stagnant, but always evolving. This is a journey of 1,000 small steps, not one giant leap. It requires a new way of seeing the world and your place in it. It begins with a simple, powerful question. What is your job? Chapter 1. What's your job? Defining your true north. Imagine standing in the middle of a vast, unfamiliar city without a map, a compass, or a destination in mind. You could walk for hours, covering mile after mile, your legs growing tired and your feet developing blisters. By the end of the day, you would have expended tremendous energy, yet you would have absolutely nothing to show for it. You would have been busy, certainly. You would have been in motion, undoubtedly. But would you have been productive? The answer, quite plainly, is no. This is how most people live their lives. They wake up each morning and immediately plunge into the current of the day, allowing themselves to be swept along by whatever happens to cross their path. They respond to every email as it arrives. They attend every meeting to which they are invited. They say yes to every request, hoping that somewhere in the chaos, they are making progress. But progress toward what? When they finally collapse at the end of the week, exhausted and depleted, they are often left with a gnawing sense of emptiness. They were busy, yes, but they were busy doing what? And more importantly, why? In the world of lean, everything begins with a single foundational concept: value. Before you can decide what to do, you must first understand what you are trying to achieve. Before you can optimize your workflow, you must know what your work actually is. In a factory, this is simple. The customer wants a car that is safe, reliable, and affordable. Every bolt tightened, every wire connected, every test performed either contributes to that goal or it does not. The work that contributes is value added. The work that does not is waste, and it must be eliminated. But your life is not a factory assembling cars. It is something far more complex and nuanced. You are not producing a single product for a single customer. You are producing a life, a rich, multifaceted, ever-evolving tapestry of experiences, relationships, contributions, and growth. Your customers are many. Your employer who pays you to solve problems. Your colleagues who depend on your reliability and insight. Your family who needs your presence and love. Your friends who seek your companionship and support, your community which benefits from your unique gifts, and perhaps most importantly, your future self who will one day look back on the choices you are making today. The great tragedy of modern life is that we rarely stop to ask the fundamental question, what is my job? We confuse our job title with our purpose. We mistake our job description for our contribution. We measure our worth by our output rather than our impact. We need to dig deeper. The head, hands, and heart of Lean. Philip Holt, in his profound work Leading Lean by Living Lean, breaks down the journey of a true Lean practitioner into three essential, interconnected dimensions: the head, the hands, and the heart. This framework is invaluable for understanding how to apply Lean to self-development. The head represents intellectual understanding. It is the realm of principles, concepts, and theories. It is knowing what Lean is and why it matters. In this chapter, we are operating primarily in the head. We are building the mental framework that will support everything else. Without a strong head, your efforts will be directionless, a series of techniques applied without understanding. The hands represent practice and application. It is the realm of tools, techniques, and daily habits. It is knowing how to implement Lean principles in your actual life. We will explore the hands in subsequent chapters as we discuss flow, visual management, and specific waste reduction strategies. The heart represents belief and identity. It is the realm of values, purpose, and intrinsic motivation. It is moving from doing Lean to being lean. It is the deep, internal transformation that occurs when these principles become part of who you are. The heart is what sustains you when the initial enthusiasm fades and the real work of continuous improvement begins. In this first chapter, we are planting the seeds in the head that will eventually take root in the heart and manifest through the hands. The most dangerous waste. Shija Shingo, one of the principal architects of the Toyota production system, and a man whose name is whispered with reverence in Lean circles, offered a warning that should be etched into the consciousness of anyone seeking to improve their life. He said, "The most dangerous kind of waste is the waste we do not recognize." Think about that for a moment. If you can see a problem, a cluttered desk, an overflowing inbox, a missed deadline, you can address it. You can clean the desk, process the emails, and adjust your schedule. The problem is visible, and visibility is the first step toward solution. But what about the waste you cannot see? What about the hours lost to unconscious procrastination? The minutes frittered away on social media while telling yourself you are taking a quick break? The mental energy consumed by worry and rumination. This invisible waste is far more dangerous because it operates beneath the surface, silently draining your resources while you remain blissfully unaware. It is like a slow leak in a tire. You do not notice it until you are stranded on the side of the road, wondering how you got there. The reason we fail to recognize this waste is that we have never clearly defined what we are supposed to be building. We are like the lost tourist in the unfamiliar city. We are moving, but we have no destination, so we cannot tell if our movement is progress or merely motion. Value-added versus waste. To develop the ability to see waste, we must first develop a crystal-clear understanding of value. In the context of your personal factory of one, we can define two categories of activity. Value-added work is any activity that directly transforms your raw materials, your time, energy, attention, and skills, into something that matters to one of your customers. When you are engaged in value-added work, you are actively moving the needle. You are creating something that did not exist before. You are solving a problem, building a relationship, or developing a capability. For a software developer, value-added work is writing elegant, functional code that delights users. It is not attending status meetings where nothing is decided. For a manager, value-added work is the uninterrupted half hour spent coaching a struggling team member, helping them unlock their potential. It is not formatting spreadsheets that no one will read. For a parent, value-added work is the hour spent building Legos with a child, fully present and engaged, creating a memory that will outlast both of you. It is not scrolling through your phone while your child plays alone nearby. Waste, or muda in Japanese, is the opposite. Waste is any activity that consumes your precious, non-renewable resources but creates no value. It is the friction in your life, the drag on your potential. Waste is the reason you feel exhausted at the end of the day but struggle to name a single meaningful accomplishment. The Lean tradition identifies 8 specific types of waste, and we will explore them in depth in the next chapter. For now, it is enough to understand that waste is the enemy. It is the thief of your time, the saboteur of your potential, and the source of your frustration. Beyond limits. If we stop at defining our job as our current role or responsibilities, we sell ourselves tragically short. Our job is not merely to fulfill a function. It is to grow, to expand, to transcend our current limitations. Bruce Lee, whose philosophy extended far beyond martial arts, understood this with profound clarity. He urged us to reject the artificial boundaries we impose upon ourselves. If you always put limits on what you can do, physical or anything else, it'll spread over into the rest of your life. It'll spread into your work, into your morality, into your entire being. There are no limits. There are plateaus, but you must not stay there, you must go beyond them. This is a crucial expansion of our definition of job. Your job is not simply to do what you are doing now better. Your job is to become capable of more than you are capable of now. It is to see the plateau not as a destination, but as a resting point before the next ascent. When you define your true north, your guiding purpose, your reason for being, you are not creating a rigid, unchanging target. You are establishing a direction. You are pointing yourself toward the horizon and committing to walk toward it, knowing that the horizon will always recede as you approach. The goal is not to arrive, the goal is to walk. Your true north. So, what is your true north? This is not a question that can be answered in a single sitting. It requires deep reflection, honest self-assessment, and often, a willingness to question assumptions you have held for years. It requires asking yourself uncomfortable questions. If I could wave a magic wand and design my perfect day, what would I actually be doing? What problems do I most enjoy solving? What do people consistently come to me for help with? When have I felt most alive, most engaged, most fully myself? If I knew I could not fail, what would I attempt? Your true north is the synthesis of your answers to questions like these. It is the unique contribution that only you can make, the specific intersection of your talents, passions, and the world's needs. It is not your job title. It is not your salary. It is not your list of responsibilities. It is the reason you get out of bed in the morning, the purpose that gives meaning to your efforts. The foundation of everything. Defining your true north is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Without it, you are building your house on sand. Every productivity system you adopt, every habit you form, every goal you set will be undermined by the fundamental lack of direction. You will optimize processes that should never have existed in the first place. You will become more efficient at doing things that do not matter. But with a clear sense of purpose, everything changes. You gain a lens through which to evaluate every opportunity, every request, every demand on your time. You can ask a simple, powerful question. Does this serve my true north? If the answer is yes, you have a reason to pursue it. If the answer is no, you have a reason to decline, delegate, or delete it. Shija Shingo reminded us that improvement usually means doing something that we have never done before. Defining your true north is the first step in that process. It requires you to think differently about your life, to see yourself not as a passive recipient of circumstances, but as an active designer of your existence. It is the foundation upon which everything else in this book will be built. Your job, in the deepest sense, is to become more fully yourself. It is to strip away the waste that obscures your true nature and to focus your energy on the value that only you can create. It is to move from being busy to being effective, from being productive to being fulfilled. This is your true north. Let it guide you. Chapter 2. Spotting Value, Spotting Waste, the Art of Seeing. There is a fascinating phenomenon that occurs in the mind of a skilled craftsman. Watch a master carpenter examine a piece of wood, and you will see something remarkable. Where an untrained eye sees only a plank, the carpenter sees grain, texture, hidden weaknesses, and latent potential. Where you see uniformity, they see variation. Where you see stillness, they see the story of how the tree grew, the seasons it weathered, the stresses that shaped it. The carpenter has developed what we might call professional vision, the ability to see what others cannot. This is precisely the skill you must develop if you wish to apply lean principles to your life. You must learn to see your own existence with the trained eye of a master craftsman. You must develop the ability to observe your thoughts, your actions, your habits, and and your environment with a new kind of clarity. You must learn to spot the difference between value and waste, between motion and progress, between being busy and being productive. Shija Shingo, whose insights continue to guide us on this journey, offered a deceptively simple observation about how we should approach problems. He said, "The best approach is to dig out and eliminate problems where they were assumed not to exist." This is a profound statement. It suggests that the most fertile ground for improvement is not in the areas we already know are broken. Those problems are obvious. Everyone can see them. The real opportunity lies in the places where we have assumed everything is fine. It lies in the habits we have never questioned, the routines we follow on autopilot, the tiny inefficiencies we have accepted as simply the way things are. The Genbutsu mindset. In the lean tradition, there is a principle called Genchai Genbutsu, which translates roughly to go and see. It emerged from the observation that managers sitting in conference rooms, analyzing reports and studying spreadsheets, consistently made poor decisions about problems on the factory floor. They were dealing with abstractions, with second-hand information, with data that had been filtered and interpreted by others. They were making decisions about a reality they had never directly observed. The solution was simple and radical. Go to the place where the work actually happens. Stand on the factory floor. Watch the workers. Observe the process with your own eyes. Only then can you truly understand the problem. For your personal factory of one, the principle of Genchai Genbutsu means becoming a conscious observer of your own life. It means stepping back from the flow of your day and watching yourself as if you were a scientist studying a fascinating specimen. It means suspending judgment and simply noticing what is actually happening. When you feel frustrated, instead of reacting, pause and observe. What triggered this feeling? What were you doing in the moments before? What was happening in your environment? When you find yourself procrastinating, do not simply scold yourself and try harder. Become curious. What is the nature of this task that makes you want to avoid it? What thoughts run through your mind when you contemplate starting? This practice of mindful observation is the foundation of all improvement. Without it, you are guessing. With it, you are gathering data. The 8 wastes in your life. To help you see more clearly, the lean tradition provides a powerful lens. The 8 types of waste, often remembered by the acronym downtime. Originally developed to identify inefficiency in manufacturing, these categories translate remarkably well to the landscape of personal productivity and self-development. Let us examine each one through the lens of your daily life. 1. Defects. In a factory, a defect is a product that must be reworked or scrapped. In your life, defects are the errors you make that require correction. You rush through a report to meet a deadline, only to discover later that you made several mistakes. Now you must spend twice as long fixing those mistakes as you would have spent doing the work carefully in the first place. You send an email without proofreading, and a typo creates confusion that requires 3 additional emails to clarify. You agree to a meeting time without checking your calendar, and later you must apologize and reschedule, wasting everyone's time. The root cause of most defects is the same: moving too fast, paying insufficient attention, or working while distracted. The cure is not to try harder, but to build quality into the process from the beginning. 2. Overproduction. Overproduction means doing more than is needed or doing it before it is needed. This is perhaps the most insidious waste in the knowledge economy. You prepare a 50-slide presentation for a 15-minute meeting, spending hours on details no one will ever see. You write 3 pages of notes when a few bullet points would suffice. You create elaborate systems and processes for tasks that are simple and straightforward. The underlying driver of overproduction is often fear. Fear of being judged inadequate, fear of not being prepared, fear of missing something important. But the result is the same. You exhaust yourself producing work that adds no value. 3. Waiting. Waiting is the idle time created when you are dependent on someone or something else. You are waiting for a colleague's input before you can begin your part of a project. You are waiting for a meeting to start, scrolling through your phone while precious minutes tick away. You are waiting for the right moment to begin a difficult task, a moment that never seems to arrive. Waiting is particularly frustrating because it combines the exhaustion of being on with the frustration of making no progress. You are ready to work, but the work cannot proceed. The solution lies in better planning, better communication, and a willingness to use waiting time productively rather than simply enduring it. 4. Non-utilized talent. This is the waste of underutilizing the skills, creativity, and potential of people, including yourself. You spend your time on low-level tasks that someone else could do, or that could be automated, while your unique gifts remain dormant. You struggle alone with a problem when a colleague has the expertise to help you solve it in minutes. You fail to ask for help, to delegate, to collaborate because of pride or fear, or simply because it has never occurred to you. Your most valuable resource is not your time, it is your talent. When you waste your talent on tasks that do not require it, you are committing a grave inefficiency. 5. Transportation. Transportation is the unnecessary movement of information or work in progress. In your digital life, this manifests as constantly switching between apps and tabs to find the file you need. It is the 5 minutes spent searching for a document that should be exactly where you expect it to be. It is the mental energy consumed by managing information that is scattered and disorganized. In your physical life, transportation waste is the unnecessary walking to the printer, to the filing cabinet, to the kitchen for yet another cup of coffee that fragments your focus and disrupts your flow. 6. Inventory. Inventory is excess information or tasks piling up. Your overflowing email inbox is inventory. Your to-read list that stretches to infinity is inventory. The stack of books on your nightstand, each with a bookmark stuck hopefully inside, is inventory. The mental list of tasks you are carrying around in your head, none of which are getting done, is the most burdensome inventory of all. Inventory creates anxiety. It represents work you have committed to but not yet started, information you have collected but not yet processed. It weighs on your mind and drains your energy, even when you are not actively working on it. 7. Motion. Motion refers to unnecessary movement of people. In the context of your personal productivity, this is the waste of multitasking. Every time you switch from one task to another, you pay a context switching tax. Your brain must disengage from the first task, orient to the second, and then, when you switch back, do it all over again. Studies suggest that this tax can consume as much as 40% of your productive time. Motion waste is also physical. It is the ergonomic strain of a poorly arranged workspace. It is the tension in your shoulders from hunching over a laptop. It is the fatigue that comes from working in an environment that fights your body rather than supporting it. 8. Extra processing. Extra processing is doing work that is not valued by the customer. You spend hours formatting a document to perfection for an internal team that only cares about the content. You worry about details that no one will ever notice. You add features, options, and complexity to your work that your audience neither wants nor needs. This waste is driven by a failure to understand what your customer actually values. It is the result of working in isolation, disconnected from feedback, making assumptions about what matters. The skin of the banana. Shingo used a memorable metaphor to explain the nature of waste. He said that in any process, there is the flesh of the banana, the essential, value-adding work, and the skin of the banana, the necessary but non-value-adding activities that surround it. His insight was that while you must pay for the skin, you cannot eat a banana without peeling it. You should constantly work to make the skin thinner. This is your challenge. The skin of your banana is all the necessary overhead of your life. The emails, the meetings, the commuting, the organizing. You cannot eliminate it entirely, but you can shrink it. You can make it thinner, more efficient, less burdensome, so that more of your energy can go into the flesh, the actual value-creating work that matters. The first step. Bruce Lee, whose wisdom transcends his martial arts origins, offered guidance that perfectly captures the spirit of this chapter. If you always put limits on what you can do, physical or anything else, it'll spread over into the rest of your life. It'll spread into your work, into your morality, into your entire being. There are no limits. There are plateaus, but you must not stay there, you must go beyond them. Learning to see waste requires you to go beyond your current plateau of awareness. It requires you to question assumptions that have become so ingrained you no longer recognize them as assumptions. It requires you to look at your life with fresh eyes, to notice what you have trained yourself to ignore. For 1 week, become an anthropologist of your own existence. Carry a small notebook or use a notes app on your phone. Every time you feel frustration, friction, or the nagging sense that you are wasting time, make a note. Do not judge it. Do not try to fix it. Simply observe. Note the time, the task, the emotion. At the end of each day, review your notes. Look for patterns. Where does the waste cluster? What triggers it? What assumptions are you making about how your day must unfold? This practice of mindful observation is the beginning of everything. It is the first step toward eliminating the waste you do not recognize. And as Shingo warned us, that unrecognized waste is the most dangerous kind of all. In the next chapter, we will explore how to redesign your life for flow, how to create the conditions for effortless progress once you have learned to see the obstacles that stand in your way. Chapter 3. Flow, Designing a Life of Effortless Progress. Have you ever experienced a moment when your work seemed to do itself? When you sat down to write, and the words appeared on the page as if dictated by some unseen force? When you tackled a complex problem, and the solution unfolded before you with crystalline clarity? When you moved through your day with such smooth, unhurried efficiency that time seemed to bend around you? This state has a name. Psychologists call it flow. Athletes call it being in the zone. Musicians call it the groove. Whatever you call it, you know it when you feel it. It is the sweet spot where challenge meets skill, where action merges with awareness, where the boundaries of self seem to dissolve and you become one with the task at hand. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who pioneered the study of flow, described it as the state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience itself is so enjoyable that people will do it even at great cost, for the sheer sake of doing it. It is, in many ways, the opposite of the fragmented, distracted, stop-start existence that modern life seems designed to produce. In the Lean tradition, flow is not merely a desirable psychological state. It is the fundamental organizing principle of all productive work. On the factory floor, flow means arranging machines and processes so that materials move continuously from one step to the next, never stopping, never piling up an inventory, never waiting. In your life, flow means designing your environment, your schedule, and your habits so that your most important work can move smoothly from start to finish without interruption. Shaja Shunga, whose wisdom continues to illuminate our path, captured the essence of this pursuit when he said, "Progress cannot be generated when we are satisfied with existing situations. Flow requires us to be dissatisfied with the friction we have learned to accept. It requires us to look at the jerky, interrupted, fragmented nature of our typical day and say, 'This is not good enough. There must be a better way.'" The physiology of interruption. To understand why flow matters, we must first understand what happens to us when we are done at it. Modern neuroscience has painted a disturbing picture of the costs of constant interruption. Every time you switch your attention from one task to another, your brain must perform a complex series of operations. It must disengage from the first task, storing your current mental state so you can return to it later. It must then orient itself to the second task, retrieving relevant information from memory and activating the appropriate neural circuits. This process takes time, typically several minutes for even a simple switch. More importantly, it consumes mental energy. When you multitask, you are not doing two things at once. You are rapidly switching between them, paying a tax each time. Studies suggest that chronic multitaskers are actually less efficient than those who focus on one thing at a time. They make more errors, take longer to complete tasks, and report higher levels of stress and frustration. But the costs go deeper than mere inefficiency. Interruption also fragments your thinking. It prevents you from developing the depth of thought required for complex problem solving. It keeps you on the surface of your work, skimming rather than diving. It robs you of the satisfaction that comes from sustained engagement with a meaningful challenge. Bruce Lee, who understood the importance of mental clarity as much as physical prowess, warned against this kind of fragmentation. Everything you do, if not in a relaxed state, will be done at a lesser level than you are proficient. Interruption creates tension. Tension prevents relaxation. And without relaxation, you cannot access your full capabilities. You are always performing below your potential. The architecture of flow. If interruption is the enemy, then what are the allies of flow? How can you design your life to make this state more accessible, more frequent, more sustainable? 1. Single tasking. The most fundamental practice for creating flow is simple in concept but difficult in execution. Do one thing at a time. When you sit down to work, choose a single task. Give it your full attention. Resist every impulse to check email, glance at your phone, or switch to something else. Stay with it until it is complete, or until you reach a natural stopping point. This sounds easy. It is not. The impulse to switch tasks is powerful, driven by the brain's novelty-seeking circuits and reinforced by years of conditioned behavior. But like any impulse, it can be managed. You can train yourself, through practice, to stay focused for longer periods. You can create environments that support focus rather than undermining it. 2. Batching. One of the most effective techniques for reducing context switching is batching, grouping similar tasks together and doing them in dedicated blocks of time. Instead of answering emails throughout the day as they arrive, check your inbox at scheduled times, perhaps mid-morning and mid-afternoon. Instead of scattering phone calls throughout your week, make them all in one focused session. Instead of jumping between different projects, dedicate entire days or half days to a single project. Batching works because it acknowledges a fundamental truth. Every type of task requires a particular mental mode. Email requires a quick, responsive mode. Deep work requires a slow, reflective mode. Creative work requires an open, associative mode. Switching between these modes is costly. Batching allows you to enter a mode and stay there. 3. Eliminating stoppages. In a factory, flow is disrupted by stoppages. Machines that break down, materials that fail to arrive, workers who are pulled away for other tasks. In your life, stoppages are the interruptions that derail your focus. Some of these are external: phone notifications, email alerts, colleagues stopping by your desk. Others are internal: the urge to check social media, the sudden thought about something you forgot to do, the anxiety that nags at the edge of awareness. The lean approach to stoppages is not to rely on willpower to overcome them. Willpower is a finite resource that depletes with use. The better approach is to eliminate the stoppages at their source. Turn off all notifications on your phone and computer. Not just the sounds, but the visual alerts, the badges, the banners. If something is truly urgent, people will call you. Everything else can wait. Create a workspace that supports focus. This is the practice of 5S: sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain, applied to your environment. A cluttered desk creates mental clutter. A place for everything and everything in its place reduces the friction of finding what you need. A clean, organized space signals to your brain that it is time to work. Use website blockers during focused work sessions. If you are tempted by social media, news sites, or other distractions, remove the temptation entirely. Make it impossible to access them during your flow blocks. 4. Managing energy, not time. Traditional productivity advice focuses on managing time. Block your calendar, schedule your tasks, account for every minute. But time is a constant. We all have the same 24 hours. What varies is energy. Flow requires high energy. You cannot achieve deep focus when you are tired, hungry, or emotionally depleted. This means paying attention to your body's natural rhythms. When are you most alert? For most people, this is in the morning, a few hours after waking. When do you experience the post-lunch dip? For most, this is in the early afternoon. Schedule your most important, demanding work during your peak energy periods. Use your lower energy times for routine tasks, email, meetings, and other activities that require less cognitive intensity. 5. The power of the environment. Your environment is not a neutral backdrop to your work. It is an active participant, constantly sending signals to your brain. A messy desk says, "It's okay to be chaotic." A phone buzzing with notifications says, "Pay attention to me, not your work." A room with poor lighting and uncomfortable furniture says, don't stay too long. Design your environment for flow. Invest in a comfortable chair. Ensure good lighting. Keep your workspace clean and organized. If possible, have a dedicated space for deep work that is separate from the spaces where you relax, eat, or socialize. Over time, your brain will learn to associate that space with focused work, making it easier to enter flow as soon as you sit down. The river and the banks. Imagine a river. It does not fight its banks. It does not struggle against its channel. It simply flows, using the boundaries as a guide, finding the path of least resistance. The banks do not constrain the river, they enable its flow. This is the paradox of structure. We often resist structure, believing it will confine us, limit our freedom, stifle our creativity. But the opposite is true. The right kind of structure, the kind that supports focus, eliminates friction, and creates boundaries, actually enables freedom. It frees you from the constant battle with distraction. It frees you from the exhaustion of context switching. It frees you to do your best work. Bruce Lee, who famously advised his students to be water, my friend, also understood the importance of structure. Water takes the shape of its container. It flows within channels. It follows the path of least resistance. But within those boundaries, it possesses immense power. The power to carve canyons, to move mountains, to shape the world. Notice that the stiffest tree is most easily cracked, while the bamboo or willow survives by bending with the wind. Flow is not about rigidity. It is about creating a structure that bends, that adapts, that supports rather than constrains. It is about designing your life so that your most important work can move through it like water, smoothly, continuously, effortlessly. In the next chapter, we will explore how to make this work visible, how to create a dashboard for your life that provides clarity, accountability, and the satisfaction of seeing your progress unfold. Chapter 4: Visual Management, the Power of Transparency. Imagine attempting to fly a modern commercial airliner without a single instrument or gauge. No altimeter to tell you your height. No airspeed indicator to tell you how fast you are moving. No fuel gauge to warn you when you are running low. No compass to show you your direction. You would be entirely reliant on instinct, on feeling, on guesswork. The chances of reaching your destination safely would be virtually zero. Yet this is precisely how most people manage their lives. They navigate by feel, by intuition, by the vague sense that they are busy, or behind, or making progress. They carry their to-do lists in their heads, where tasks can multiply, mutate, and disappear without leaving any trace. They rely on memory to track commitments, deadlines, and priorities. And then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed, why things fall through the cracks, why they lie awake at night with the nagging sense that something has been forgotten. In the lean tradition, this is considered unacceptable. A factory floor without visual controls would be chaos, materials piling up in unknown locations, workers unsure what to do next, problems hidden from view until they become crises. The solution is visual management, the practice of making work visible so that anyone can understand the current state at a single glance. Shija Shingo, whose penetrating insights continue to guide us, understood the profound importance of visibility. He said, "The best approach is to dig out and eliminate problems where they were assumed not to exist." Visual management is the tool that allows you to dig. It brings hidden problems into the light. It transforms vague anxieties into concrete challenges that can be addressed. It replaces the fog of, "I have so much to do," with the clarity of, "These are the 3 tasks I am committed to completing today." The burden of invisible work. There is a reason you feel tired at the end of a day when you have accomplished nothing. There is a reason you feel anxious when your to-do list exists only in your mind. Your brain is not designed to be a storage device. It is designed to be a processing device. When you use your memory to hold tasks, commitments, and deadlines, you are essentially running background processes that consume mental energy even when you are not actively working. This is known as the Zeigarnik effect, named after the psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who discovered that people remember incomplete tasks better than completed ones. Your brain keeps unfinished items active in working memory, nagging at you, demanding attention, creating a low-level hum of anxiety. The only way to quiet this hum is to either complete the task or, crucially, to make a plan for completing it and capture that plan externally. This is why the simplest productivity advice, write it down, is also the most profound. When you externalize your commitments, you free your brain to do what it does best. Think, create, solve problems. You stop using your mind as a storage device and start using it as a processing device. The Kanban board. The most powerful tool for visual management is the Kanban board. The word Kanban means visual signal or card in Japanese. In its simplest form, a Kanban board is divided into 3 columns: to do, doing, and done. This simple structure contains profound wisdom. Let us examine each column. To do, this is your backlog of tasks that are ready to be worked on. The key insight here is that this column should contain only tasks you have genuinely committed to doing. It is not a dumping ground for every idea, wish, or possibility that crosses your mind. It is a curated list of prioritized work. By keeping this column visible, you prevent tasks from disappearing into the black hole of your memory. You also create a limit for yourself. When this column grows too long, it is a signal that you are overcommitted and need to reassess. Doing, this column represents your work in progress, WIP. And here we encounter one of the most powerful concepts in all of Lean: limiting WIP. The principle is simple. You can only work on a small number of tasks at once. When you have too many tasks in the doing column, none of them are actually moving forward. They are stuck in a state of partial completion, draining your energy without producing results. The typical recommendation is to limit your WIP to 1, 2, or at most 3 tasks. This forces you to focus. It prevents you from starting new work until you have finished existing work. It creates pressure to complete, rather than simply to begin. As Shija Shingo noted, progress cannot be generated when we are satisfied with existing situations. Limiting WIP creates dissatisfaction with unfinished work. It creates a healthy tension that pulls tasks toward completion. Done, this is the most satisfying column of all. At the end of each day, you should be able to look at your Kanban board and see tasks that have moved from left to right, from commitment to completion. This visual record of accomplishment provides a psychological reward that no amount of abstract, feeling productive, can match. It is proof that you have moved the needle, that your efforts have produced results, that you are making progress toward your true north. Physical vs. digital. Your Kanban board can be physical or digital, and each has its advantages. A physical board, a whiteboard, a corkboard, even a piece of paper on your wall, has the advantage of constant visibility. It is always there, always reminding you of your commitments. The act of physically moving a sticky note from doing to done provides a tactile satisfaction that digital tools cannot replicate. Digital boards, such as Trello, Asana, or Microsoft Planner, offer other benefits. They can be accessed from anywhere, shared with collaborators, and integrated with other tools. They can handle complex workflows with multiple stages and dependencies. They can store attachments, comments, and due dates. The choice between physical and digital is less important than the commitment to using one consistently. The tool is not the point. The point is the practice of making your work visible. Beyond tasks, visualizing your life. The principles of visual management can be extended far beyond your to-do list. Consider applying them to other areas of your life. Goals, create a visual representation of your major goals. This could be a vision board with images representing your aspirations. It could be a simple chart tracking your progress toward a specific target. It could be a written statement of your true north, displayed where you will see it every day. Habits, use a habit tracker to make your daily practices visible. A simple calendar where you mark each day you exercise, meditate, or write creates accountability and motivation. The visual record of consistency becomes its own reward. Projects, for complex projects with many moving parts, create a more detailed board. Map out the stages of the project, the dependencies between tasks, the resources required. Make the entire process visible so you can see at a glance where you stand. Learning, track what you are learning. Keep a visible record of books read, skills acquired, insights gained. This not only provides motivation, but also helps you see patterns and connections in your intellectual growth. The dashboard of your life. Think of visual management as creating a dashboard for your life. Just as a car dashboard tells you your speed, your fuel level, and whether your engine is functioning properly, your personal dashboard should tell you the most important things about your current state. What belongs on this dashboard? That depends on your true north. For some, it might include progress on current projects, key habits being tracked, energy levels throughout the day, time spent in deep work versus shallow work, commitments to others, important deadlines, financial goals, relationship health. The key is to choose metrics that matter, that are within your control, and that provide actionable information. A dashboard cluttered with irrelevant data is no better than no dashboard at all. Transparency and accountability. When your work is visible to others, something powerful happens. Accountability increases. It is one thing to tell yourself you will complete a task. It is quite another to have that task visible to your team, your family, or your coach. The social pressure to follow through, while uncomfortable, is also motivating. This is why many organizations use visible Kanban boards in shared spaces. The transparency creates alignment, reduces duplication of effort, and helps team members support each other. When everyone can see what everyone else is working on, coordination becomes easier and trust deepens. In your personal life, consider making your commitments visible to someone who cares about your success. A partner, a friend, a mentor. Share your dashboard. Let them see your progress. Let them hold you accountable. The vulnerability of transparency is the price of accelerated growth. Lean is a way of thinking, not a list of things to do. Shija Shingo. A Kanban board is not just a thing to do. It is a physical manifestation of a lean way of thinking. It embodies the principles of pull, flow, and transparency. It moves you from a reactive, chaotic state to a proactive, calm state of control. By making your work visible, you make it manageable. And by making it manageable, you free yourself to focus on what truly matters. In the next chapter, we will explore the heart of lean and self-development. Kaizen, the philosophy of continuous improvement that transforms good intentions into lasting transformation. Chapter 5. Kaizen, the art of continuous self-development. There is a story, perhaps apocryphal but powerful nonetheless, about the British cycling team. For nearly a century, British cyclists had been mediocre at best. In the entire history of the Tour de France, not a single British rider had ever won. They had won only a handful of Olympic gold medals in the sport's long history. They were, by any measure, underperformers. Then, in 2003, they hired a new performance director named Dave Brailsford. Brailsford had a philosophy that seemed almost absurdly simple. He called it the aggregation of marginal gains. The idea was to break down every single component of cycling performance and improve it by just 1%. Not 10%, not 20%, 1%. They optimized the seats to make them more comfortable. They rubbed alcohol on the tires for better grip. They tested different fabrics for racing suits in wind tunnels. They experimented with massage gels to speed muscle recovery. They taught riders the best way to wash their hands to avoid infection. They even painted the inside of the team truck white to help spot dust that could impair the performance of the bikes. None of these changes, by themselves, was revolutionary. But together, they created something extraordinary. Between 2007 and 2017, British cyclists won 60 Olympic and Paralympic gold medals and captured 5 Tour de France victories. The aggregation of marginal gains had transformed a team of all-Sarans into the most dominant force in the sport's history. This is the essence of Kaizen, the philosophy of small steps. Kaizen is a Japanese word that means change for the better or continuous improvement. It emerged in post-World War II Japan as part of the country's remarkable industrial renaissance, influenced by American quality experts like W. Edwards Deming. But its roots run deeper, tapping into something fundamental about how human beings grow and change. The core insight of Kaizen is deceptively simple. Small, incremental changes applied consistently over time lead to monumental results. It is the opposite of the revolutionary, overnight transformation approach that dominates so much of self-development culture. It does not ask you to wake up at 5:00 a.m. tomorrow and run a marathon. It asks you to wake up 5 minutes earlier. It does not demand that you write a book in a month. It asks you to write one paragraph today. This philosophy is the antidote to the paralysis that so often accompanies big goals. We want to get in shape, so we join an expensive gym, buy new workout clothes, and resolve to exercise for an hour every day. We do it for a week, maybe 2. Then life intervenes. We miss a day, feel guilty, miss another day, feel more guilty, and eventually stop going altogether. The gap between our ambition and our reality becomes a source of shame rather than motivation. Kaizen offers a different path. It says, do 1 push-up today, just 1. Tomorrow, do 1 push-up again, or perhaps 2 if you feel inspired. The goal is not the push-up. The goal is to show up, to build the habit, to create momentum. The push-up is almost incidental. Shingo, whose wisdom has guided us through this journey, outlined the purposes of improvement in a specific order. Easier, better, faster, cheaper. Notice what comes first. Before you try to make your work better, faster, or more efficient, you should first make it easier. Kaizen should reduce friction. It should make your life less stressful, not more. When you make something easier, you are more likely to stick with it. And when you stick with it, improvement naturally follows. Improvement usually means doing something that we have never done before. Shingo. Kaizen requires you to do things you have never done, but it does not require you to do them all at once. It asks only for the next small step. The compound effect. The reason Kaizen works is the same reason compound interest works. A small improvement, applied daily, accumulates in ways that are difficult to predict but impossible to ignore. If you improve by just 1% every day, you will not be 1% better after 100 days. You will be nearly 3 times better. The math is simple. 1,01365 equals 37.78. A 1% daily improvement yields a nearly 38-fold improvement over the course of a year. Conversely, a 1% daily decline, 1,00365, leaves you at nearly 0. This is not just mathematical theory. It is borne out in every domain of human achievement. The writer who commits to writing 300 words daily will have a book manuscript in less than a year. The runner who adds 1 minute to their daily run will be running for hours by year's end. The person who reads for 15 minutes each day will consume more than 20 books in a year. The challenge is that these gains are invisible in the short term. When you write your 300 words today, you cannot see the book taking shape. When you add your 1 minute to your run, you cannot feel the endurance building. The results lag far behind the effort. This is why most people give up. They cannot see the progress, so they assume there is none. Visual management, which we explored in the previous chapter, is the perfect complement to Kaizen. A habit tracker that shows your daily streaks makes the invisible visible. It provides the feedback loop that sustains motivation when results are delayed. Applying Kaizen to your life. How do you actually practice Kaizen? It begins with a single question asked daily. How can I make this better? This question can be applied to any area of your life. Let us explore some examples. Your morning routine. How can you make your mornings easier? Perhaps you can prepare your coffee the night before. Perhaps you can lay out your clothes before bed. Perhaps you can move your phone charger away from your bed so you are not tempted to check it first thing. Each of these is a tiny improvement, a marginal gain. None will transform your life overnight, but over time, they will accumulate into a morning routine that feels effortless rather than chaotic. Your work. How can you make your most important task easier? Perhaps you can prepare your workspace before you begin. Perhaps you can break the task into smaller pieces and focus on just the first piece. Perhaps you can identify the most common distractions and eliminate them before they occur. Perhaps you can ask a colleague for help with a difficult aspect. Each small improvement reduces resistance, making it more likely that you will actually do the work. Your relationships. How can you make your relationships better? Perhaps you can send a thoughtful text to a friend you have not spoken with recently. Perhaps you can ask your partner about their day and actually listen to the answer. Perhaps you can offer a genuine compliment to a colleague. These small gestures cost almost nothing but accumulate into deep reservoirs of trust and connection. Your skills, how can you improve your capabilities? Perhaps you can spend 15 minutes learning a new feature in the software you use daily. Perhaps you can read one article about your field. Perhaps you can practice a difficult skill for a few minutes. The 1% approach to skill development is far more sustainable than the occasional binge of intensive learning. Your health, how can you make healthier choices easier? Perhaps you can place a bowl of fruit on your counter and hide the processed snacks in a hard-to-reach cabinet. Perhaps you can park farther from the entrance to add a few extra steps to your day. Perhaps you can drink a glass of water before each meal. These small changes bypass the need for willpower by designing your environment for success. Overcoming the resistance to small improvements. There is a strange paradox in human psychology. We resist small improvements almost as much as we resist large ones. The ego wants dramatic transformation. It wants to be able to say, "I changed my entire life in 30 days." The suggestion that we should improve by just 1% can feel insulting. It can feel like settling for mediocrity. But this is a misunderstanding. Kaizen is not about settling. It is about sustainable growth. It recognizes that the most powerful changes are often invisible at first. The bamboo tree grows underground for years, developing a root system that will eventually support explosive above-ground growth. The oak tree spends decades becoming an oak. There are no shortcuts. Bruce Lee, whose philosophy of continuous growth has inspired millions, understood this deeply. He said, "Ever since I was a child, I have had this instinctive urge for expansion and growth. To me, the function and duty of a quality human being is the sincere and honest development of one's potential." Notice the words he chose: sincere and honest development, not dramatic transformation, not overnight success, development, growth, the patient, persistent unfolding of potential over time. The role of reflection. Kaizen requires feedback. You cannot improve what you do not measure, and you cannot measure what you do not observe. This is why daily or weekly reflection is essential to the practice. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what went well today? What could have gone better? What one small thing could I do differently tomorrow? At the end of each week, ask yourself, what patterns do I notice in my daily reflections? What small improvements have stuck? Where did I resist making changes? What is the next small step I can take? This practice of reflection is itself a form of Kaizen. It is a small improvement to your improvement process, a meta-level optimization that accelerates everything else. The humility of Kaizen. Paul Akers, in his book 2 Second Lean, makes a profound observation about the mindset required for continuous improvement. He writes that growth starts with humility, the admission that things can be better, that we do not know everything, that we must change how we think and act to grow. This humility is the foundation of Kaizen. It requires us to set aside our ego, our attachment to being right, our investment in the way things have always been. It requires us to approach our lives with the curiosity of a beginner, always asking, how can this be better? Rather than defending, this is good enough. The arrogant person believes they have already arrived. The humble person knows they are always on the journey, and it is the humble person who continues to grow. The function and duty of a quality human being is the sincere and honest development of one's potential. Bruce Lee. This development never ends. There is no finish line, no point at which you can declare yourself complete and stop improving. The moment you believe you have arrived is the moment you begin to decline. Kaizen is the recognition that the journey itself is the destination, that growth is not a means to an end, but the end itself. Starting today. You do not need to wait for Monday. You do not need to wait for New Year's Day. You do not need to wait for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment does not exist. You can begin Kaizen today, right now, with one small question. What is the one thing you could improve today by just 1%? Perhaps it is drinking an extra glass of water. Perhaps it is going to bed 10 minutes earlier. Perhaps it is writing one sentence of that project you have been avoiding. Perhaps it is simply sitting in silence for 2 minutes, breathing and asking yourself, how can I make this better? That question, asked sincerely and honestly, is the seed of everything. Plant it today, water it tomorrow, and trust that over time it will grow into something you cannot yet imagine. In the next chapter, we will confront the internal obstacles that arise when we attempt to change. The resistance, the procrastination, the perfectionism, the fear, and explore how lean principles can help us overcome them. Chapter 6, Overcoming Resistance, the Psychology of Lean. There is a scene in virtually every heroic journey where the protagonist stands at the threshold of adventure, ready to embark on their quest, only to find the path blocked by a fearsome guardian. This guardian may be a monster, a rival, or a seemingly insurmountable obstacle. But its true purpose is not merely to block the way. It is to test the hero's resolve, to force them to prove that they are worthy of the journey. In your personal journey toward lean productivity, you will encounter your own guardians. They are not external monsters or rivals. They live within you. They are the psychological forces of resistance that rise up whenever you attempt to change your habits, improve your systems, or step outside your comfort zone. Procrastination, perfectionism, fear of failure, self-doubt, these are the sentinels at the gate of your potential. The lean tradition, for all its focus on systems and processes, is deeply aware of these internal obstacles. Shija Shingo, whose practical wisdom has illuminated every chapter of this book, encountered resistance constantly in his work. When he tried to introduce improvements on factory floors, he was often met with the same response: "We're too busy for this." His reply was characteristically direct. Are you too busy for improvement? Frequently, I am rebuffed by people who say they are too busy and have no time for such activities. I make it a point to respond by telling people, look, you'll stop being busy either when you die or when the company goes bankrupt. This is a profound observation. Being too busy is often not a statement of fact, but a defense mechanism. It is an excuse that protects us from the uncomfortable work of changing our habits. It allows us to stay exactly where we are, to continue doing what we have always done, to avoid the uncertainty and vulnerability that come with growth. The nature of resistance. Stephen Pressfield, in his magnificent book The War of Art, gives this internal force a name: resistance. He describes it as a universal, powerful, and insidious force that acts against human creativity and growth. Resistance is what stops you from sitting down to write, from making that difficult phone call, from starting that exercise program, from having that honest conversation. Pressfield writes, most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. Resistance takes many forms. It appears as procrastination, the endless delay of important work in favor of trivial distractions. It appears as perfectionism, the relentless pursuit of an impossible standard that guarantees you will never finish anything. It appears as self-doubt, the voice that whispers you are not good enough, smart enough, or talented enough to succeed. It appears as fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of success, fear of the unknown. The first step in overcoming resistance is recognizing it for what it is. It is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. Quite the opposite. Resistance always rises in proportion to the importance of the work you are attempting to do. The more meaningful the endeavor, the more fierce the resistance will be. As Pressfield puts it, the more important a call or action is to our soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel toward pursuing it. This is a crucial reframe. When you feel resistance, it is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are heading in the right direction. Procrastination and the lean cure. Procrastination is perhaps the most common manifestation of resistance. It is the gap between intention and action, the space where our best intentions go to die. We know what we should be doing. We genuinely want to do it. And yet we find ourselves scrolling through social media, cleaning the kitchen, organizing our bookshelves, anything but the task at hand. In lean terms, procrastination combines two types of waste. Waiting for the right moment, the right mood, the right conditions, and motion, the mental energy expended worrying about the task instead of doing it. The lean cure for procrastination is to shrink the task until the resistance to starting it disappears. This is Kaizen applied to action. Do not tell yourself you are going to write a chapter. Tell yourself you are going to write one sentence. Do not commit to exercising for an hour. Commit to putting on your workout clothes. Do not resolve to clean the entire garage. Resolve to throw away one item. The act of starting creates momentum. Once you have written that first sentence, writing the second becomes easier. Once you have put on your workout clothes, going for a walk becomes more likely. Once you have thrown away one item, continuing to declutter feels natural. The hardest part is always the beginning. Kaizen eliminates the beginning by making it so small that resistance has nothing to push against. Perfectionism as overproduction. Perfectionism is another powerful form of resistance. It masquerades as a commitment to quality. But its true nature is fear. Fear of being judged inadequate. Fear of releasing something imperfect into the world. The perfectionist revises endlessly, tweaks obsessively, and rarely ships. In lean terms, perfectionism is a classic case of overproduction. It is doing more work than is needed, polishing details that no one will notice, adding features that no one has requested. It is the enemy of flow because it prevents work from moving from doing to done. The lean antidote to perfectionism is the concept of good enough. This does not mean accepting mediocrity. It means recognizing that value is created by shipping, not by perfecting. A product that is 80% complete and in the hands of users is infinitely more valuable than a product that is 100% complete and still in your head. A report that is submitted on time with minor imperfections is more valuable than a perfect report that misses the deadline. A conversation that happens imperfectly is more valuable than the perfect conversation that never happens. Shija Shingo's hierarchy of improvement purposes, easier, better, faster, cheaper, offers another perspective. Perfectionism tries to achieve better without first making the work easier. It skips the foundational step and wonders why progress feels so hard. By making the work easier first, by lowering the bar for what counts as done, you create the conditions for genuine improvement over time. Fear and the relentless barrage of why. Fear is the deepest form of resistance. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of looking foolish, fear of outgrowing your current relationships, fear of discovering that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. Fear is the guardian at the gate, and it is formidable. In Lean, we have a tool for dealing with fear. It is the same tool we use for dealing with any problem, asking why. Shija Shingo advocated for using a relentless barrage of whys to pierce through the surface level of any issue and reach its root cause. This technique, known as the 5 whys, is remarkably effective for uncovering the true source of fear. Why am I afraid to start this project? Because I might fail. Why would failure be so terrible? Because it would mean I am not good enough. Why does being not good enough matter? Because I have built my identity around being competent. Why is that identity so important? Because I fear that without it, I would be unworthy of love and respect. Why do I believe that? By the time you have asked the 5th why, you have usually reached a place that has nothing to do with the original task. You have uncovered a deep-seated belief that has been running your life, often unconsciously. And in bringing it to light, you rob it of some of its power. You can examine it rationally, question its validity, and choose to act differently. The discipline of showing up. Ultimately, overcoming resistance is not about finding the perfect technique or the right mindset. It is about discipline. It is about showing up day after day and doing the work regardless of how you feel. Sam Levinson, the humorist and writer, offered a simple but powerful mantra for this. Don't watch the clock do what it does, keep going. The clock does not worry about whether it is running fast enough. It does not doubt its ability to keep time. It does not wait for the perfect moment to tick. It simply keeps going, second after second, minute after minute, hour after hour. This is the model for overcoming resistance. Do not watch the clock. Do not measure your progress anxiously. Do not wait for motivation to strike. Just keep going. The reward. What lies on the other side of resistance? Everything you have been seeking. The book you have always wanted to write. the business you have dreamed of starting, the healthy body you have imagined, the deep relationships you have craved, the sense of purpose and meaning that has always felt just out of reach. Resistance stands between you and these things. It is the gatekeeper, and you must pass through it. There is no other way. Bruce Lee, who faced and overcame more resistance than most of us can imagine, understood this deeply. He said, "If you always put limits on what you can do, physical or anything else, it'll spread over into the rest of your life. It'll spread into your work, into your morality, into your entire being. There are no limits. There are plateaus, but you must not stay there, you must go beyond them." Resistance tries to convince you that your current plateau is a limit. It tells you that you have gone as far as you can go, that you should be satisfied with where you are, that the risks of going further outweigh the rewards. But you know better now. You know that plateaus are not limits. They are resting places, opportunities to gather strength before the next ascent. In our final chapter, we will explore what it means to live lean, to move beyond techniques and tools, and into a way of being that transforms not only your productivity, but your entire existence. Chapter 7. Living Lean, the journey is the destination. There is a famous Zen parable about a man riding a horse. The horse is galloping swiftly, and a bystander calls out, "Where are you going?" The rider replies, "I don't know, ask the horse." This is how most people live their lives. They are carried along by momentum, by habit, by the expectations of others, by the sheer force of cultural conditioning. They are moving, sometimes quite fast, but they have no idea where they are going. They have surrendered the reins to the horse. The journey we have undertaken in this book has been about taking back those reins. It has been about transforming you from a passive passenger into an active rider, from someone who is carried by life into someone who deliberately shapes it. We have explored the head, the intellectual understanding of value and waste. We have developed the hands, the practical tools of flow, visual management, and Kaizen. We have confronted the heart, the psychological resistance that arises whenever we attempt to change. Now we arrive at the final destination, which is, paradoxically, not a destination at all. For in Lean, there is no finish line. There is no point at which you can declare your life optimized and stop. The pursuit of improvement is not a project with an end date. It is a way of living. From doing to being. Philip Holt, whose book Leading Lean by Living Lean has guided our three-part framework of head, hands, and heart, offers a crucial distinction. He suggests that the ultimate goal is not merely to do lean, but to be lean. It is to internalize the principles so deeply that they become second nature, an inseparable part of who you are. This is the difference between someone who practices the piano for an hour each day and someone who has become a pianist. The first is engaging in an activity. The second has integrated the activity into their identity. When you are a pianist, you do not have to force yourself to practice. Practice is simply what you do. It is part of how you define yourself. The same is true for lean. When you are living lean, you do not have to remind yourself to look for waste. You see it automatically. You do not have to force yourself to create flow. You design for it instinctively. You do not have to motivate yourself to improve. Improvement is your default state. Shija Shingo, whose wisdom has accompanied us through every chapter, understood this transformation. He said, "Lean is a way of thinking, not a list of things to do." When lean becomes a way of thinking, it permeates everything. It influences how you approach your work, certainly. But it also influences how you relate to your family, how you spend your leisure time, how you care for your health, how you engage with your community. It becomes a lens through which you view all of existence. The mindset of continuous improvement. Living lean means adopting a mindset of continuous improvement in every domain of life. It means waking up each morning with a simple question. How can I make today better than yesterday? This question has infinite applications. In your work, it might mean asking how you can complete your most important task with less friction. In your relationships, it might mean asking how you can be more present, more attentive, more generous with your loved ones. In your health, it might mean asking how you can make one small choice that supports your well-being. In your personal growth, it might mean asking what you can learn today that you did not know yesterday. The beauty of this mindset is that it transforms everything into an opportunity for growth. There are no failures, only feedback. There are no setbacks, only data. There are no problems, only chances to practice your problem-solving skills. When you are living lean, even the worst days become valuable because they teach you something about where your system needs improvement. Bruce Lee, whose philosophy of continuous adaptation and growth has inspired us throughout this journey, captured this mindset perfectly. Life is never stagnation. It is constant movement, unrhythmic movement, as we as constant change. Things live by moving and gain strength as they go. Things gain strength as they go. This is the promise of continuous improvement. You do not need to be strong at the beginning. You only need to be moving. The movement itself generates strength. The humility of the learner. Living lean requires a particular kind of humility. It requires the willingness to admit that you do not have all the answers, that your current way of doing things can be improved, that there is always more to learn. Paul Akers, in his book 2 Second Lean, emphasizes this point. He writes that growth starts with humility, the admission that things can be better, that we do not know everything, that we must change how we think and act to grow. He suggests that the first step in any improvement journey is to focus on ourselves. If we can break down our own daily activities and work on those things that help us be more efficient, productive, and positive, we set the most powerful example possible. This humility extends to how we view others. When you are living lean, you recognize that everyone has something to teach you. The colleague who does things differently may have discovered a better way. The family member who frustrates you may be reflecting something you need to examine in yourself. The person who criticizes you may be offering valuable feedback, even if it is delivered imperfectly. The opposite of humility is arrogance, the belief that you have arrived, that you know enough, that you are done growing. Arrogance is the enemy of improvement. It closes the mind, hardens the heart, and stops the movement that gives life its strength. The integration of work and life. One of the most pernicious myths of modern culture is the separation of work and life. We speak of work-life balance as if work were not part of life, as if the hours we spend earning a living were somehow separate from the hours we spend actually living. This false dichotomy creates enormous suffering. It leads people to tolerate miserable jobs because they are just work, while waiting for the weekend when their real life can begin. Living lean dissolves this false separation. When you are living lean, your work is not something separate from your life. It is an expression of your life. It is the place where you apply your talents, solve meaningful problems, and contribute to something larger than yourself. It is not something to escape from. It is something to engage with fully. This does not mean you should be working all the time. It means that when you are working, you are fully present. And when you are not working, you are fully present to whatever else life offers. The same principles of flow, focus, and continuous improvement apply equally to both domains. Shija Shingo, who dedicated his life to improving work, would have understood this deeply. He knew that the purpose of improvement was not to make people work harder, but to make work easier, better, faster, and cheaper so that people could focus on what truly matters. The ultimate goal of lean is not productivity for its own sake. It is freedom. Freedom from waste, freedom from frustration, freedom from the meaningless toil that drains the spirit. The legacy you leave. As you internalize these principles and make them part of who you are, you will inevitably influence others. People will notice that you seem calmer, more focused, more effective. They will observe how you handle challenges, how you recover from setbacks, how you continuously improve. They may ask you for advice. They may begin to adopt some of your practices. You will become, without intending to, a teacher. This is perhaps the most profound aspect of living lean. The improvements you make in yourself ripple outward, affecting everyone around you. Your family benefits from your increased presence and patience. Your colleagues benefit from your reliability and insight. Your community benefits from the contributions you are now able to make. Your example inspires others to begin their own improvement journeys. Bruce Lee understood that personal development was never just about the self. He said, "The function and duty of a quality human being is the sincere and honest development of one's potential." Why is this a function and duty? Because your potential is not yours alone. It is a gift to the world. When you develop it sincerely and honestly, you are fulfilling your obligation to everyone whose lives you touch. You are becoming the person you were meant to be, and in doing so, you are making the world better than you found it. The never-ending journey. And so we arrive at the end of this book, which is really just the beginning of your journey. The principles you have learned, defining your true north, seeing waste, creating flow, making work visible, practicing Kaizen, overcoming resistance, are not meant to be read once and forgotten. They are meant to be lived daily for the rest of your life. There will be days when you forget them. There will be weeks when you slip back into old habits. There will be moments when resistance seems overwhelming and the old patterns reassert themselves. This is not failure. This is the nature of growth. The path is not a straight line. It is a spiral, circling back to the same lessons again and again, each time at a deeper level. The question is not whether you will stumble. You will. We all do. The question is whether you will get back up, dust yourself off, and continue the journey. The question is whether you will keep asking, how can I make this better? Even when the answer is not immediately clear. The question is whether you will keep moving, keep growing, keep becoming more fully yourself. Shija Shingo, near the end of his remarkable life, offered a reflection that captures the essence of this journey. Progress cannot be generated when we are satisfied with existing situations. May you never be completely satisfied. May you always see the possibility for improvement. May you always have the humility to learn and the courage to change. May you live lean, not as a set of techniques, but as a way of being. And may you discover, as so many have before you, that the journey itself is the destination. The point is not to arrive at some final state of perfect productivity. The point is to become the kind of person who is always growing, always improving, always moving toward their true north. The point is to live fully, work meaningfully, and leave the world a little better than you found it. This is lean productivity. This is the power of self-development. This is your life waiting to be lived. Begin.